Because it will bring confusion. So important. Many of us are too ignorant of what is required of us as God's last day people living in these closing hours. Dictionary's definition of ignorant: lack of knowledge, information, or education. What do you mean? It means you were unawares, unconscious, unenlightened, inexperienced, unintelligent, innocent, uninformed, unknowing, unlearned, ignorant. Well, Paul stood up in Mars Hill and encouraged the believing Gentiles that they must turn from their idols and idolatrous worship service and serve the living God, in whom we live and move and have our being. And he said that this type of ignorance, God will do what, church? Wink. He winked, because he didn't know no better. There was Gentiles. And that because they did not know, and also they never had a chance to know. That's one type of ignorance. But the Bible says here in Acts 17:30, he said, at the times of this ignorance, God winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. That's why the Lord is taking me all over the place, preaching, because he wants to warn not just people in the world, but his church. Get ready. Yes. Because I'm making up my jewels. And you might think, well, the church is not ready. Well, God says, I'm ready. I can't wait on you. All I need is 144,000 and I'm ready. But there is another type of ignorance. Oh, listen, Hosea was called of God to be a prophet of warning because Israel had been rebellious and had forsaken the Lord God and rejected the warnings from his prophets, even killing them. And they committed whoredoms in the land by swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing adultery. And God declared he had a controversy with his inhabitants, because there is no truth, no mercy, no knowledge of God in the land. Therefore the land shall mourn and the people shall languish. What do you mean languish? That means they're sick, weak, abandoned, and they're sorrow. And that sounds just a little bit too much like us. And he said in Hosea chapter 4 verse 6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because what did they do? They rejected it. I don't want to hear no preaching about me this weekend. You know what? He shouldn't even come, and if he come, me not come. Yeah. One or two, if he's here, me not here. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget your children. You know what's so precious to me? You. You know what's so precious to you? Your children. So if you think that you don't really need to do anything with me, I'm going to forget you, and I'm going to forget your children too. And see what you do about that. And many of us will be lost because we rejected the truth when it was presented to us. Because it did not feel good, or we would have to give up or take up something that we don't want to do. I don't want to do it. So you know what? I'm not going to do it. And many don't realize there's a duty of the congregation. You and I have a duty. What duty? Satan invents unnumbered schemes to occupy our minds, that they may not dwell upon the very word which we ought to be best acquainted. We are supposed to be the best acquainted in this work. What work? The arch deceiver hates the great truths that bring to view an atoning sacrifice and an all-powerful mediator. Satan hates the sanctuary message. And that is what our church should be trumpeting all over the world. That there's a sanctuary in heaven, and guess who's up there? Jesus. He knows that with him, everything depends on his diverting minds from Jesus and his truth. The subject of the sanctuary and the investigative judgment, it should be clearly understood by the people of God. All need a knowledge for themselves of the position and the work of the great high priest. Otherwise, it will be impossible for them to exercise the faith which is essential at this time, or to occupy the position which God designs them to fill. If you don't understand the sanctuary, you don't even know if you're coming or going. has a case pending at the bar of God. Each must meet the great judge face to face. Every individual has a soul to save or to lose. The way you live today, someone's going to go to hell because you did not live up to God's truth enough today. Oh, I could have preached a message and I could have watered it down, you know what? And someone would have gone home and eat what they want to eat and drink what they want to drink and live how they want to eat. And you know what? My God would have put that blood upon my shoulder. There are prerequisites to the participating in the Day of Atonement, type and antitype. What are you talking about, sir? Well, the duty of the congregation in ancient Israel's time was they wasn't allowed to do no work. They had to change their clothes. They couldn't just dress anyhow on the Day of Atonement in Israel's time. No. They had to rise up early. They couldn't lie down in bed and say, you know what's the Day of Atonement today? Oh, I'm going to stay in bed. I'm tired. The high priest, he wasn't even allowed to sleep that night. You know why? Two things. His wife might have pushed herself up on him and make him unclean while he's sleeping. What are you doing? Wait. Sorry. The wife could have pushed up herself on him and make him unclean. Or he could have gone to sleep and have a dream. So he had to stay up all night. Because the Bible says Jesus never slumbereth, neither sleepeth. He was a representative of Jesus Christ, who ever liveth to make intercession for us. While you and I sleep, Jesus is interceding with his hands outstretched to his Father, saying, have mercy on Northampton, Lord Father. They don't know what they do. Also, on the 10th day of the 7th month, Leviticus 23, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. You better not do no work in that day, same day, for it is a day of atonement to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. For whosoever, for whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. Oh. So hold on now. So if the children of Israel felt that they didn't need to participate in that day, they was cut off from being accepted by God. And whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy. God himself will destroy that soul from among his people. Do you know how serious that day was in the children of Israel's time? Oh boy. It was a solemn day. They never had no loud music and dancing. No, they couldn't even dress a certain way. They couldn't even stay in bed. They had to rise up early and they could do no work. You shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations and all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and you shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month, and even from even until you shall celebrate your Sabbaths. Question. Since 1844, we've been living in a day of atonement. Are you afflicting your soul? Or are you just taking it easy? What are you doing? There's 3 main areas of affliction for Seventh-day Adventists. The first one is do no work. Our life is supposed to be ministry and mission driven. Oh, I'll say it again. It's supposed to be ministry and mission driven. Every one of us is supposed to have a ministry for the Lord. If you ain't got a ministry, your Christianity is dead. Every one of us is supposed to have some type of vehicle where we use, so God can use us to win someone to Jesus. And if you don't have a ministry, your Christianity is dead. And don't come and tell me you come to church and you look all pretty. God don't really too interested in that. He wants to use you as an instrument. And every time you go out, you're supposed to have some tracts in your pocket or in your bag, so you can at least give somebody. That's a ministry. I know some man who collects some money sometimes, and what he does, he collects the weights, he gets £100 and he buys 100 great controversies, and he gives out 100 great controversies to people who he don't even know.
Yeah. That's right.
Each great controversy costs £1, and let me tell you something about that book. Anybody who reads that book, their life will never be the same again. Your life needs to be ministry and mission driven. You're supposed to have a mission as well. Don't just say, oh, I've got a ministry and sit down, y'all watch this and y'all watch that. It must have a mission.
Outreach. Yeah.
You need to change your clothes as well. Our clothing is supposed to reflect that we are not of the world. Okay? You can't dress anyhow on the Day of Atonement. The way many of us dress, we are on the side of the enemy of God. How are you dressing? Huh? Do you dress to reflect that you are in the Day of Atonement? When you dress in the week, I'm not talking about the Sabbath, because many of us know how to dress on the Sabbath. I'm talking about in the week. With your tight jeans, men and women. How do you dress? Because many of us, we're not participating over this one. Fast. We as good people should be on a continual fast. We all must get back to the Eden diet, because that's the diet of the Day of Atonement and the welcome table. What are you talking about, preacher? The Pen of Inspiration says this: greater reform should be seen among the people who claim to be looking for the soon appearing of Christ. Health reform is to do among our people a work which he has not yet done. There are those who ought to be awake to the danger. Oh, it's not. There's a danger of meat eating, who are still eating the flesh of animals, thus endangering the physical, the mental, and the spiritual health. Many who are now only half converted on the question of meat eating. They will go from God's people to walk no more with them. What do you mean? You're going to leave the church? No, leave what church? They stay in the church and they cause so much problems. You see, health reform is the lifeblood of the saints. The primary purpose of health reform is not physical, but spiritual health. I don't eat so I can be physically healthy. You think I have a diet where I eat fruit in the morning and vegetables in the evening so I can say, oh, I'm a health reformer and I eat this? No, I eat the way I eat so I can hear God speak to me. So when I stand up there, I can relay what God speaks to me, because some of our brains are so numb that when God speaks to us, we can't even hear. Why? Because the stomach is closely related to the brain. And when the stomach is diseased, the nerve power is called from the brain to the aid of the weakened digestive organ. And when these demands are too frequent, the brain becomes congested. I need to hear God speak to me. What do you need? Jesus in the heavenly sanctuary is warning us this night. Because you know what? I may never see you again. You may never invite me back to your church again. This may be the last time I see some of your faces. And I will give 3 reasons why we as God's last day people should not eat meat. Because it will cause our atonement in heaven more difficult to be achieved. All right, put on your seatbelts, strap up. I'm going to give 3 reasons why we should not eat meat in this Day of Atonement now. All right, first reason. Genesis 9:1-5. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth and upon every fowl of the air and upon all that move on the earth and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things, but flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall you not eat. And surely the blood of your lives will I require, at the hand of every beast will I require. What did I just say? First thing, surely the blood of your lives will I require. What do you mean you're going to require my life? Why my life for the life of chicken? He didn't say he wants your life. He said he wants your blood. What do you mean? Every time you have a meat dinner, my God is going to take the life force from your blood. So in other words, you're getting weaker, or some type of disease is starting to form inside you. Is that me? Or is that spirit of prophecy? That's the Bible. This is what Sister White says. Council of 373. God gave our first parents the food. He designed them the way they should eat. It was contrary to his plan to have the life of any creature taken. There was to be no death in Eden, and there's going to be no death in heaven. The fruit of the trees in the garden was the food man's once required. God gave man no permission to eat animal food until after the flood. Everything had been destroyed upon which man could subsist, and therefore the Lord in their necessity gave no permission to eat of the clean animals which he had taken with him into the ark. But animal food was not the most helpful article of food for man. The people who lived before the flood ate animal food and gratified their lusts until their cup of iniquity was full, and God cleansed the earth of the moral pollution by a flood. And after the flood, the people ate largely of animal food. God saw that the ways of man was corrupt, and that he was disposed to exalt himself proudly against his creator, and to follow in the inclinations of his own heart. And he permitted that long-lived race to eat animal food to shorten their sinful lives. Soon after the flood, the race began to rapidly decrease in size, in length of years. God said, you know what, yeah, eat the meat, because you know what, I know the meat is going to make you start living shorter. And you look shorter too. Surely, the blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it. Hold on, what are you talking about now? You mean to tell me, Lord, that for every animal that I have swallowed down my neck, you recorded it against my name? Yes. As I tell people, animals don't have privileges to have funerals these days. You know when the funeral is? In your plate. Because you pray for it. And then when you pray for it, you bury him down your throat. And that is it. He does not have a resurrection. Only humans have resurrections. When he's on your plate, that's it for him. And when you swallow him, no one's going to know his existence no more. You mean really, Lord? Look, are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 farthings, and not one of them is forgotten before God? You think God don't see the animal on your plate? And so, that animal had a mother and father. But even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, therefore, you are more valued than many sparrows. Every single animal you've had is against your name. And you are, if you're not saved, you're going to have to answer to God why you eat him or her. Second reason. We don't know what we are eating. You don't know what you're eating. I remember when this broke, and a man stood up in church. One man, he stood up in church and said, if I want to eat meat, I can do what I want. And I nearly stood up, you know, but it was the Holy Ghost just saying, stay down, son, don't worry, we will deal with him. And someone else dealt with him. Because I was saying, brother, if you want to eat what you want and you think you're eating beef, but you're eating horse, how you feel? Hold on. It was labeled as beef. And it was 99% horse.
Yeah.
Tesco's horse. Look at them. They've actually got machines which are specifically designed to carve up a horse and to turn it into beef. We don't know what we are eating. Findus knew of the horse lasagna 12 days ago when they kept it silent. And then one report said, you know what, I have to expose it because there might be some countries who look at eating horse as a delicatessen and say, oh, it's good meat. In England, we don't think that way. We want to know what we eat, and if we choose to eat horse, then that's all right. But if I don't choose to eat horse, I don't want to eat horse. We don't know what we're eating. From pigs and things. Pigs are in so much food. Do you know they actually pump chickens with pig waste? So technically when the water goes up into the chicken, it pumps up the chicken, but it can't be just pure water because technically the water would drain out again. So they actually get pig glycerine mixed with the water to pump up the chicken. So you want to have a big fat chicken and it's big, it's, touch my tongue, Jesus. It's a big fat chicken, pork bellied animal. And the majority of all the chickens which are raised in England, around the world, in Europe, especially in America, they're pumped full of pig gristles to make them nice and big and fat. And Satan knows it because he knows if you eat pork, you're in trouble. Cancer, cow leukemia. They found out so many people catch leukemia from eating cow. 98% of the meat is unclean. In other words, when you eat a chicken, it's not 100% chicken. There's some other animal inside of it or with it or part of it. You don't know what you're eating. Horse meat, fox meat, donkey meat, you don't even know what you're eating. Yeah. And they got a 5-year period, what are you talking about? Where they're saying that, listen, the way the European situation is now, there's so many countries exporting meat here and meat here and meat there, and it's continually frozen. They said they can't trace the meat for about another 5 years. Rat meat. You mean to tell me that you people in China they eat rat?
Yeah, and dogs and cats.
Right down in London. Which market? Ridley Road. Them are rat spread out. And they caught some Chinese men. How much was there? About 900. And they arrested them. Because you know what? The rat meat was being minced up and being shipped to some European country. They didn't say the European country, but that meat was not being labeled as rat. It was being labeled something else, and it was 50 tons. Now I know a 1-ton truck, and that's a big truck. Imagine 50 tons full of pure meat. Rat meat at that. You got growth hormones. So much young people that don't have no time to grow up. The chicken and the cow and the lamb, they're pumped with all these growth hormones and we eat the meat. And then when we're young, we grow up with everything. 10 years older, we have everything. You don't even give us time to grow. We're just full of growth hormones. Because you see, you know what happens in Christmas time? Many of us like our turkey big and fat. The turkey's so fat he can't even walk or stand up and just lie and roll. Casein and prions, that's animal protein. That's the worst type of protein to get because you can't destroy that protein. And prions is one of the precursors for cancer. That's how cancer can travel from an animal to the human being when you eat it. And many people who come to me with breast cancer and this cancer and that cancer, first I do is I talk to them because I want to know if they've ingested animal product, because if they did, they most probably caught the cancer from the animal, or the fish, or the milk. Meat glue, what's that all about? Well, they get the platelets from the pig's blood. You know the plates that make our blood clots? When you got pig platelets. And technically what they do, they get pieces of meat, put it all together, because these pieces of meat, you can't sell it by yourself. So they put it all together to make it look like one whole piece of meat. And it's not one whole piece of meat. It's a piece of neck, piece of liver, piece of kidney, piece of stomach, piece of eye. And they all stick it together and they all squirt pig's blood in it and they make it all nice. And you think you bought one nice piece of lean steak. It's not. It's meat glue. E. coli. Did a study about that. You know what E. coli is? Because the cow has got 4 stomachs. And technically they've been feeding the cow, not the grass, what the cow likes to eat. They're feeding the cow corn and chicken offal. That means ground up chickens, which is too bad to be sold to humans. And then the cow's stomach gets poisoned. And then technically when he's being killed, he's covered in feces. And the bacteria E. coli is all over. And the E. coli situation is rising and they're not saying a word about it.
Yes.
Laboratory test tube meat. You know, actually, from a little cell, they can actually grow meat now, a burger meat. Yeah. I see them show it on the television. Yes. It tastes just like meat. Yeah, it's good. And it was grown in a laboratory.
Yes.
BIV, animal form of HIV. Many people are catching HIV from the animal because the animal had BIV.
Oh, God. Oh,
we don't know what we're eating. And when we look at these 12 points, we can clearly see that if we eat meat, we really cannot know what we are eating. It's not just guesswork, but it's plain suicide. We are committing. But there is also another major problem facing meat eating. I watched a program called Farm to Fridge. Anybody seen that program? Watch it. Farm to Fridge. They actually put a warning on it. You're not allowed to watch it unless you're 18 years old. Because of what they show goes on in the abattoir, where they butcher the animals. They said that you have to be 18 years old to watch it on YouTube. Right there, they're stamping on the pig because the pig is trying to run away from seeing his mum and dad being killed, and they're stamping on it to try and actually crush it. They do actually end up crushing it with their own foot. That chicken can't even stand up because he's so fat, he can't even stand up because the calcium in his legs, her legs are too weak. You know why the calcium in her legs are too weak? Because you know a lot of us eat egg. And the female chicken, she lasts for 6 months. The male, he lasts for 6 weeks and they just kill him. Because he ain't got no use, except for pregnating. But the female chicken, some of us like our egg. And the problem is she makes so much egg with her calcium for the shell, she hasn't got none left for her bones and her legs. Oh, bless. So she's there. So when we're having our egg, unborn fetus, be careful. You know what they're doing there? That cow has got cancer cells on its skin and they're burning it off because they don't want the cancer cells to be part of the food. So they're burning the skin of the animal so no cancer cells don't get into the food chain. But let me tell you something, if it's got cancer on the skin, it's inside his bones and body as well. You see, his throat is cut already. This one, you know what that is? Yeah. That's cancer coming out of his rectum. The cow has cancer, and when his When he's minced up, all that cancer is going in the food chain. And they're going to put pepper on it and make it taste nice for you. And you're going to say, you know what? This is nice. This one here, he tried to run away because he dropped off the food chain. But he dropped off the food chain with his throat cut. And he dropped in his own sewage, in his own blood. And just left him there because they couldn't be bothered to pick him up. They're going to get a truck, a dump truck to pick him up and to ship him and put him in. And then what's what they're going to do? They're going to curry. These are rats. They were cooked because they're a delicatessen in India. Not India, China. Rats again. Whole. They just eat the head whole. Just eat it whole. That's a chicken fin. Or chicken coop. And they are, you know how long these chickens last for? 6 weeks. Yeah. That is it. And they're given growth hormones. They ain't got no beaks. They ain't got no beaks. They have hardly any feathers. And they're technically just grown to breed because we like chicken. These are baby chicks. They ain't no use. They're male. So they ain't got no use. So guess what they do? They're on a conveyor belt. And they don't know where they're going. They think they're going to go and see mommy. They're not going to see no mommy. They're dropping down all over the place and say, where are we going? Guess what they end up? The man is stamping on them because there's so much baby chicks who are male. And the man is stamping on them because he can't be bothered to kill them no other way. And guess what they end up like? And then when they end up like that, then they end up like that. Beef burger. And then when they end up like that, it's got a little colouring now. Nice. We don't know what we are eating. This cow here, look at his eyes. He's scared because he saw his brother, he saw his friends, and he saw them go in the same place and he ain't seen them again. You know why he never saw them again? Because they was going in that. It was being ground up alive. And then you know what? They ground up him alive and they make sure they saw off his head. He's crying. He's crying, man. You think animals don't know what we do to them? You think animals don't know? Animal cruelty, we just really don't know what we are doing. GM foods, genetically modified foods. There's two major problems what's happened since 1940. We don't know what we're doing. You know, it's not just the animals are crying out, the plants are crying out. Because we're genetically modifying them to do things that nature never intended them to do. They never intend to grow so fast. Environmental dilution effects, higher yields by decrease in mineral content by overuse and artificial addition to the soil. We need 90 nutrients, which are 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 3 fatty acids. We need those things in the soil, and we get 3. The earth is just diluted to the point where God has to do something. There's too much of us eating. And then genetic dilution effects, genetically altered in the DNA and choosing foods that are more easy to grow so they don't concentrate on nutrition quality but on crop yields quantity. And it's not based on customer demand but on a regime which is called selective breeding. That's all those big shopping centres. They give you what they're going to give you now, not what you want. Before you can say, I want some seeded grapes. All you get now is pure seedless. Romans 8:19-22, for the earnest expectation of the creature. It waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. You know what the creatures are waiting for? The cow, the chicken, the pig.